and welcome to the Narrowing Path, walking the spiritual walk. My name is Steve Van Eierstein. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for today's daily reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. This will be for July 26th, of course, and we're coming into the home stretch here on July, the last couple of days in July. For all those following along, I hope you agree with me. It's been a very powerful month. So I'm encouraged and excited to finish this month out and just see where it takes us. And a lot of these readings this month, again, have been from the 8 Pillars of Prosperity, a book I personally read from James Allen, and it is worth reading twice, I'll tell you that much, if not many more times. So this will be fresh to you and fresh to me, meaning you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading, as this will be the first time that I read it or hear it right here on the podcast with you. So here we go. This is the reading for July 26th from James Allen's Daily Meditations. A gentle man, one whose behavior is prompted by thoughtfulness and kindliness, is always loved, whatever may be his origin. The man who has perfected himself in gentleness never quarrels. He never returns the hard word. He leaves it alone or meets it with a gentle word, which is far more powerful than wrath. Gentleness is wedded to wisdom, and the wise man has overcome all anger in himself, and so understands how to overcome it in others. The gentle man is saved from most of the disturbances and turmoils with which uncontrolled men afflict themselves. While they are wearing themselves out with wasteful and needless strain, he is quite quiet and composed, and such quietness and composure are strong to win in the battle of life. Argument analyzes the outer skin, but sympathy reaches to the heart. That is a great reading. And it's another reading about that what happens when someone actually does the work, and as a result of that, where the power of doing this work actually comes from, right? Where the strength of it comes from. This for opening line, a gentle man, let me make sure the spacing's right on that. One whose good behavior is prompted by thoughtfulness and kindliness is always loved, whatever may be his origin. Now, a big part of this, whose behavior is prompted by thoughtfulness and kindliness, one thing that I've had to learn is my behavior has to be the behavior I choose it to be. Now, that might seem like an obvious statement, but I think I've touched on it before. If I'm going to be a kind man, I'm going to be kind. It doesn't matter if you're kind to me, if you're angry with me, if you're aggressive, slanderous towards me. I choose how I want to behave. If I give someone the power to change my behavior depending on their actions, I've just given away all my power, haven't I? Right? Like if I want to be kind and loving and honest, faithful, hopeful, joyous, if I want to be a principled man, let my actions speak much more than my words, I have to decide what I want to be like. I have to decide what I want my character to reflect at all times, not just when I'm not in conflict, not just when things are good, not just when I'm around people I want to be around, but at every single moment of my life, not just when the circumstances are ones that I deem favorable for myself, right? my character and my integrity are independent of my external circumstances. I can't stress that enough. We follow spiritual principles as a choice, not because it's convenient. That's a large difference. That's a large consideration to take. And when we decide to be like that, people notice it, right? Because the last part of that first opening line is always loved, whatever may be his origin, no matter where you come from. If you are a man of gentleness and kindness, that attracts people, that brings out the best in people, really. To choose to be loving is one of the most courageous and strong things you could do. So, all right, now the main body of this reading. The man who has perfected himself in gentleness never quarrels. There's no arguments. Right? There's compassion, there's understanding, and then there's kindness and gentleness. There's not the bickering or the loud raised voices or anything of that nature. He never returns the hard word. Like I just said, he leaves it alone or meets it with a gentle word, which is far more powerful than wrath. I think I touched on power yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago. I can't recall. But I thought power was something completely different than what I believe it is now. Power now to me means the ability to choose to act in a kind and gentle way. I used to think it was a wrathful, angry, fear inducing behavior set. I couldn't have been more wrong, right? And when we come with that gentleness, that kindness of choice too, we're not talking about being resigned to a certain way of life because we have no other choice, in the sense we have no ability to be different than that. We talked about how within the last couple of days, it talked about how we needed selfishness and conceit and all these things burned out of us. That means we have the full knowledge and awareness of how we can act. So we have the ability to choose to be kind. And that's a much more powerful place to be. If you don't think I stated it on that reading that day, a choice requires options. So, gentleness is wedded to wisdom, and the wise man has overcome all anger in himself and so understands how to overcome it in others. And it's talking about how um, we can help those when we've actually done the work ourselves, right? Everything else is theoretical. Everything else is just intellectual knowledge. The application and comes from the wisdom, excuse me, comes from the application of the intellectual knowledge, and therefore finding the experience of it. And with that experience comes the nuance, the perspective, the clarity, the understanding that is wrapped up into wisdom, right? So to help someone overcome their own anger, to help someone overcome their character defects or different behaviors, we first have to address our own. We have to see where we function from for so long. We have to change our perspective and change our initiatives in life. Change how we function and how we live. And that's where the wisdom comes from. And from wisdom is born gentleness and tenderness and kindness and love. The gentle man is saved from most of the disturbances and turmoils with which uncontrolled men afflict themselves. Here we go, right? He says uncontrolled men. He doesn't say not gentle or unwise. He says uncontrolled men. The gentle man is a controlled man. Why? Because we've surrendered to our anger and we've worked through it and we've overcome all the anger in ourselves. We've surrendered and understood we've had to the work we have to do to get through the problems or defects of character that have caused us to have such a painful existence and such a irrational and hard life that we've put ourselves through. The gentle man is saved from most of the disturbances and turmoils with which uncontrolled men afflict themselves. The gentle man is a controlled man that knows what happens when he is not controlled. While they are wearing themselves out with wasteful and needless strain, he is quiet and composed, and such quietness and composure are strong to win in the battle of life. Even though I think it was earlier on this month, or maybe it was the end of June, I can't quite recall right now, but we talked about proper use of energy, proper amount, proper effort, right? Using the correct effort in the correct direction so we don't exhaust ourselves and we conserve our energy when we need to, and we spend only the energy that's necessary to. And what this is really talking about, wasteful, wearing themselves out with wasteful and needless strain. What are we fighting that we don't need to fight? What are we trying to manipulate and control and hide and run from and change that it's pointless to do? If we do this work, when we get rid of that vein of anger that runs through us, suddenly it's smoother sailing, as they say. Suddenly it's a peaceful time. Suddenly you're spending less energy on worry and regret and remorse. And then that quietness and composure that's a resulting thing from the proper use of our energy and our efforts is the key to winning, are strong to win in the battle of life. That's a fight we all have. All right, now the last line here. Argument analyzes the outer skin, but sympathy reaches to the heart. A lot of people put a show on, display secondary emotions, I think they're called sometimes today. But they are using tactics to protect their own hurt, right? So the argument and disagreement is talking about what's happening on the surface skin. When we practice sympathy, the kindness, the gentleness, the understanding, the perspective, the love, we reach into the heart of others, to where they're truly hurting, to where they're truly struggling. Not the external display of emotion, but where the true wound is, where the true pain lies. Well, all right. Thank you all for joining me. That's where we'll go ahead and we'll end this tonight. It was another fantastic reading, just encouraging in more ways than I can count. But thank you all for joining me, and I'll look forward till tomorrow's. So until next time, thanks.